Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. Eleanor Vance stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her penthouse in Manhattan, the city's skyline glittering like a jewel box below. The apartment, perched atop one of Julian Thorne's many real estate conquests, was a masterpiece of modern luxury. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and art curated by a team of tastemakers. Yet, as Eleanor traced her finger along the cold glass, she felt like a bird in a gilded cage, beautiful but trapped. At 32, she was the fiancée of Julian Thorne, the enigmatic CEO of Thorne Innovations, a tech empire revolutionizing AI and quantum computing. To the world, she had it all: wealth, status, and a man who could command a room with a single glance. But the truth was heavier, more suffocating. "Ellie, you're doing it again," came a voice from behind. Lena Carter, Eleanor's best friend since their college days at Stanford, lounged on a cream leather sofa, her auburn curls spilling over a cashmere throw. Lena's sharp green eyes caught the distant look on Eleanor's face. "You're staring out there like you're planning an escape." Eleanor forced a smile, turning from the window. "I'm fine, Lena. Just thinking." "About what?" "How to survive another one of Julian's business dinners where he ignores you for his phone." Lena's tone was playful but pointed. She set down her wine glass and leaned forward. "Come on, Ellie. You've been off lately. I know you." Eleanor sighed, sinking into the sofa opposite Lena. Her silk blouse shimmered under the soft lighting, but her posture betrayed her unease. "He's just busy. Thorne Innovations is launching that new AI platform next month. You know how it is." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Busy?" "Ellie, he's been busy for months. Last week at that charity auction, he barely said 2 words to you. And don't think I didn't notice him texting under the table like a teenager with a crush." Eleanor's stomach twisted. She'd noticed it too: Julian's furtive glances at his phone, the way his lips curved into a private smile that wasn't for her. She wanted to dismiss it as work, but the doubt gnawed at her. "He's under a lot of pressure," she said weakly. "Pressure doesn't make you forget your fiancé exists," Lena shot back. "You deserve better than being his arm candy, Ellie. You're brilliant. You've got an MBA from Stanford, for God's sake. You could be running your own empire." Eleanor's fingers tightened around her wine glass. Lena wasn't wrong. She'd been the one to help Julian refine his initial pitch for Thorne Innovations years ago, back when they were just 2 dreamers in a cramped apartment. But somewhere along the way, she'd stepped back, letting Julian take the spotlight while she worked in the shadows. Now, she was starting to feel like a ghost in her own life. "Let's change the subject," Eleanor said, forcing a brighter tone. "Tell me about that new client you landed. The fashion designer, right?" Lena hesitated, then relented, launching into a story about her PR firm's latest coup. But as she spoke, Eleanor's mind drifted back to Julian. Tonight, he was at another late meeting. She didn't want to admit how often those meetings had stretched into the early hours, leaving her alone in this too-perfect penthouse. Across town, in a loft bathed in the glow of neon lights, Serafina Dubois twirled in front of a full-length mirror. Her crimson dress hugged her curves, and her dark hair cascaded in waves that caught the light like liquid obsidian. At 27, Serafina was a rising star in the art world, her bold, provocative paintings commanding 6-figure prices. But tonight, her masterpiece wasn't on a canvas, it was her. "Julian, darling, what do you think?" she purred, catching the reflection of Julian Thorne lounging on her velvet chaise. His tailored suit was slightly rumpled, a rare sign of vulnerability for the man who seemed carved from marble. Julian's blue eyes gleamed with appreciation as he stood, crossing the room to wrap his arms around her. "You're a vision, Serafina. That dress should be illegal." She laughed, a low, throaty sound, and tilted her head to meet his kiss. "Good. I want every eye on me when we walk into that gallery opening next week. Let them see who's on your arm." Julian's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but Serafina didn't notice. She was too busy reveling in the moment, in the way Julian's attention made her feel invincible. He'd been hers for months now, showering her with gifts, a diamond bracelet, a private jet to Paris for a weekend, and most recently, this loft in Soho, a space she'd transformed into her personal sanctuary. To Serafina, Eleanor Vance was a distant, irrelevant figure, a woman who clung to Julian's coattails, too meek to hold his fire. "Speaking of next week," Julian said, pulling back slightly, "I might need to keep things discreet. You know how the press can be." Seraphina's eyes narrowed, but her smile stayed sharp. "Discreet? Julian, I'm not some dirty little secret. I'm your future." She stepped closer, her fingers trailing down his chest. "Eleanor's the past. You've said it yourself, she's boring, predictable. I'm the one who keeps your blood pumping." Julian chuckled, but there was a tightness in his jaw. "You're impossible, you know that? And you love it," she shot back, her confidence unshakable. "Now, tell me about this gala. You're the guest of honor, right? I'm thinking something gold, something that screams, untouchable." Julian's phone buzzed on the table, and he glanced at it, his expression shifting to one of guarded focus. "The gala? Yeah, it's a big deal. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I've got some things to handle first." Seraphina rolled her eyes, undeterred. "Handle them, then. Just make sure you're ready to show the world who really matters." As Julian typed a quick reply on his phone, Seraphina turned back to the mirror, already envisioning her triumph. She was the flame to Eleanor's flicker, and soon, everyone would know it. The Soho loft was alive with music and laughter, a private party Seraphina had thrown to celebrate her latest gallery show. Artists, influencers, and a few well-placed journalists mingled under the glow of string lights, sipping artisanal cocktails. Seraphina, in a shimmering gold jumpsuit, held court in the center of the room, her laughter cutting through the chatter like a bell. "To Seraphina Dubois," toasted a gallery owner, raising his glass. "The woman who's rewriting the art world with every stroke of her brush." The crowd cheered, and Seraphina basked in the adoration. She felt untouchable, a queen in her own right. Julian had slipped away early, citing a work emergency, but she didn't mind. His absence only fueled her narrative. She was the one who mattered, the one he couldn't resist. Eleanor, with her quiet elegance and corporate polish, was no match for Seraphina's vibrancy. As the night wore on, Seraphina pulled her closest friend, Mia, into a quiet corner. "You should have seen Julian last night," she whispered, her eyes gleaming. "He couldn't keep his hands off me. He's talking about a trip to the Amalfi Coast next month. Just the two of us." Mia, a sculptor with a penchant for gossip, leaned in. "What about Eleanor? Isn't she still, you know, the fiancée?" Seraphina snorted, sipping her martini. "Eleanor's a placeholder. Julian's told me she's too safe, too ordinary. She's like a piece of furniture, nice to look at, but you don't notice it after a while. I'm the one he's building a future with." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Bold words, Sarah. But what if she's not as ordinary as you think? I heard she's got some serious pull at Thorne Innovations." Seraphina waved a dismissive hand. "Pull? Please. She's just the arm candy who got lucky. Julian's the genius behind the company. Everyone knows that." Mia shrugged, unconvinced, but Seraphina was already moving on, her mind racing with plans for the gala. She'd make an entrance that would leave no doubt. She was Julian's true partner, in every way that mattered. Eleanor sat in her home office, a sleek space tucked away in the penthouse. Her laptop screen glowed with spreadsheets and projections for Thorne Innovations' upcoming AI platform. She'd been up since dawn, refining the financial models that would secure the company's next round of funding. Julian might be the face of the company, but Eleanor was its backbone, holding 51% of the shares and steering its strategic direction from behind the scenes. She remembered the early days vividly, late nights in their tiny apartment, sketching out business plans on napkins, debating algorithms over cheap coffee. Eleanor had been the one to secure their first investor, leveraging her charm and intellect to convince a skeptical venture capitalist. But as Thorne Innovations grew, Julian craved the spotlight, and Eleanor, ever the team player, let him have it. She told herself it was for the company, for their shared dream. But now, that dream felt like a mirage. Her phone pinged with a text from Lena. "Dinner tonight? You need a break, Ellie." Eleanor hesitated, then typed back, "Can't. Got to finish these projections. Rain check." Lena's reply was immediate. "You're killing yourself for a company that doesn't even acknowledge you. Come on, One night out won't hurt. Eleanor stared at the message, her chest tightening. Lena was right. She was pouring her soul into Thorne Innovations, but her name was rarely mentioned in the press releases or boardroom discussions. She was the invisible architect, and it was starting to erode her sense of self. She closed her laptop and walked to the window, the city lights blurring as her eyes welled up. "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself. The question hung in the air, unanswered, but it planted a seed of resolve. She wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. The invitation arrived in a cream envelope, embossed with gold lettering, Thorne Innovations Annual Gala. Eleanor opened it, expecting to see her name alongside Julian's, as it had been in years past. But this time, the card listed only Julian as the guest of honor. Her name was nowhere to be found. She sat at her dining table, the invitation in her trembling hands. The oversight felt deliberate, a public erasure of her role in Julian's life and the company they'd built together. She called Lena, her voice shaking. "They didn't even mention me," Eleanor said, her words barely above a whisper. "It's like I don't exist." Lena's voice crackled through the phone, furious. "That's not an accident, Ellie. Julian's letting them write you out of the story. You need to show up to that gala and remind everyone who you are." Eleanor's eyes fell on the invitation again, the gold lettering mocking her. "I don't know if I can. What if there's someone else?" "Then you face it," Lena said firmly. "You're Eleanor Vance. You built that company as much as he did. Don't let him, or anyone, make you feel small." Eleanor nodded, though Lena couldn't see it. The sting of the invitation was a wake-up call, a spark igniting something dormant within her. She wasn't just Julian's fiancée. She was a force, and it was time the world remembered that. Serafina Dubois stood in the middle of a high-end boutique in Soho, surrounded by racks of designer gowns that shimmered like liquid gold and silver. The air smelled of expensive perfume, and the boutique's owner, a wiry man named Claude, fluttered around her like a moth to a flame. Serafina's dark eyes scanned the dresses with a predator's focus, her mind already picturing the Thorne Innovations Gala. This was her moment, the night she'd cement her place as Julian Thorne's true partner, the woman who'd stolen his heart from the colorless Eleanor Vance. "Claude, darling, it has to be unforgettable," Serafina said, her voice dripping with confidence as she ran her fingers over a sequined gown. "I want every camera on me, every whisper about me. This is my coronation." Claude clapped his hands, his eyes gleaming with dollar signs. "Oh, ma chère, I have just the thing." He disappeared into the back and returned with a gown that made Serafina's breath catch, a deep gold number with a plunging neckline and a train that flowed like molten metal. "This is from Milan, exclusive. You'll be a goddess." Serafina slipped into the dress, the fabric clinging to her curves like a second skin. She turned to the mirror, her lips curving into a triumphant smile. "Perfect," she murmured. "Julian won't know what hit him." Back at her loft, she called her friend Mia over for a strategy session. Over glasses of rose, Serafina laid out her plan. "I'm walking in on Julian's arm, Mia. The press will eat it up. Tech Titan's new muse steals the show. Eleanor will be a footnote by the end of the night." Mia swirled her glass, her expression skeptical. "You're sure about this? I mean, Julian's still engaged to Eleanor. What if she shows up?" Serafina laughed, tossing her hair. "Eleanor? She's probably at home knitting or something equally dull. She doesn't have the guts to face me. Besides, Julian's told me she's irrelevant. This gala is my stage, and I'm rewriting the script." Mia leaned back, unconvinced. "I don't know, Sarah. I've heard things about Eleanor. People say she's more than just the fiancée. She's got serious stakes in the company." Serafina's smile tightened. "Stakes? She's a glorified assistant who got lucky. Julian's the visionary. I'm the one who inspires him now." She stood, striding to the window, her gold gown catching the light. "This gala is where I become untouchable. Eleanor's history." Eleanor sat in her penthouse, the Thorne Innovations Gala invitation still lying on the dining table like an unanswered challenge. The sting of her exclusion had festered into something else, a quiet, burning resolve. She wasn't just Julian's fiancée, she was the architect of his empire, and she was done being invisible. Lena burst through the door, her energy a stark contrast to Eleanor's stillness. "Okay, Ellie, enough moping. We're going to that gala, and you're going to show them who you are." She dropped a shopping bag on the table, her green eyes sparkling with mischief. "I made some calls. You've got an appointment with Vivian tomorrow." Eleanor blinked. "Vivian? As in Vivian Laurent, the designer?" "The one and only," Lena said, grinning. "She's in town for Fashion Week, and she owes me a favor. You're not just showing up, Ellie, you're making a statement." Eleanor hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the invitation. "I don't know, Lena. What if I go and... what if he's with someone else? I've seen the way he's been acting. The late nights, the texts." Lena sat beside her, her voice softening. "Then you face it, Ellie. But you do it on your terms. You're not just Julian's fiancée, you're Eleanor Vance, the woman who built Thorne Innovations from the ground up. You deserve to be seen." Eleanor's eyes met Lena's, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of defiance. "You're right. I've been hiding too long. If Julian's moved on, I need to know. And if he hasn't, he needs to remember who I am." Lena clapped her hands. "That's my girl. Tomorrow, we're turning you into a legend. Julian won't know what hit him." As Lena launched into plans for the gala, Eleanor felt a shift inside her. This wasn't about winning Julian back, it was about reclaiming herself. She'd spent years in the shadows, but the gala would be her spotlight. The next day, Eleanor stepped into Vivian Laurent's private atelier, a sanctuary of silk and satin tucked away in a quiet corner of the Upper East Side. Vivian, a petite woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, greeted her with a warm smile. "Lena tells me you need something extraordinary," she said, her French accent softening the words. "Let's find your armor." Eleanor followed Vivian through racks of gowns, each more breathtaking than the last. But when Vivian pulled out an emerald silk gown, Eleanor's breath caught. The dress was elegant yet bold, its deep green hue shimmering like a forest at twilight. The bodice was fitted, with delicate straps that gave way to a flowing skirt that moved like water. "Try it," Vivian urged, her eyes twinkling with knowing. In the dressing room, Eleanor slipped into the gown, the silk cool against her skin. She stepped out and faced the mirror, and for a moment, she didn't recognize herself. The woman staring back was poised, powerful, radiant. The emerald hue brought out the warmth in her hazel eyes, and the gown hugged her frame with a quiet strength. Lena gasped, clapping her hands. "Ellie, you look like you could conquer empires. This is it, the gown that's going to shut down that gala." Vivian nodded, adjusting a fold in the fabric. "This dress is not just beauty, it's power. Wear it like you mean it, Eleanor." Eleanor's fingers brushed the silk, and she felt a surge of confidence. "I will," she said, her voice steady. "This isn't just a dress. It's me, stepping out of the shadows." That night, alone in her penthouse, Eleanor stood in front of her mirror, the emerald gown draped over a chair. She practiced her walk, her posture, imagining the gala's spotlight. For the first time in years, she felt like the woman who'd built an empire, not the woman who'd let it define her. The night of the Thorne Innovations Gala arrived, and the city buzzed with anticipation. The event, held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, was a glittering affair, with paparazzi lining the red carpet and tech moguls mingling with celebrities. Serafina Dubois stepped out of a sleek black limo, her gold gown catching the camera flashes like a beacon. Julian was at her side, his tailored tuxedo accentuating his sharp features, though his smile was tight, his eyes scanning the crowd. Serafina looped her arm through his, her confidence unshakable. "Smile, darling," she whispered, her lips brushing his ear. "The world's watching." Julian nodded, but his posture was stiff. "Let's just get through this," he muttered, his voice low. The crowd parted as they walked the red carpet, cameras clicking furiously. Serafina tossed her hair, relishing the attention. "This is it, Julian," she said under her breath. "The night we show them who we are." A reporter thrust a microphone toward her. "Ms. Dubois, you're stunning tonight. Are you and Mr. Thorne an item?" Serafina's smile was dazzling. "Let's just say Julian knows how to pick a winner." The crowd murmured, and Julian's jaw tightened, but he didn't correct her. Serafina's heart soared. She was the star of this show, and no one could touch her. She envisioned the headlines, the social media buzz, the world crowning her as Julian's queen. But as they reached the entrance, a hush fell over the crowd. Seraphina turned, her smile faltering. Something, or someone, was stealing her spotlight. Eleanor Vance stepped onto the red carpet alone, her emerald silk gown catching the light like a jewel. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, the air charged with anticipation. Her auburn hair was swept into an elegant updo, a few tendrils framing her face, and her hazel eyes shone with a quiet fire. She moved with grace, each step deliberate, as if the world had been waiting for her. The cameras swiveled, flashes erupting like fireworks. "Eleanor Vance," a reporter shouted. "You're breathtaking. Tell us about the gown." Eleanor paused, her smile serene but commanding. "It's Vivian Laurent," she said, her voice clear and steady. A reminder that true strength doesn't need to shout. The crowd erupted in murmurs, and Seraphina's grip on Julian's arm tightened. "Who does she think she is?" she hissed, her gold gown suddenly feeling garish next to Eleanor's understated elegance. Julian's face paled, his eyes locked on Eleanor. She came," he whispered, almost to himself. Eleanor's gaze met his for a fleeting moment, and in that look, there was no anger, only certainty. She didn't need him to validate her, she was here for herself. As she glided past, the crowd parted, and whispers followed her. "That's Eleanor Vance, the real power behind Thorne Innovations. Did you know she owns the majority shares?" Seraphina's smile froze, her confidence cracking like thin ice. She leaned toward Julian, her voice sharp. "What are they talking about?" "Majority shares." Julian didn't answer, his eyes still on Eleanor as she entered the gala, the emerald gown trailing behind her like a royal mantle. The room inside seemed to shift, every eye turning to her, the woman who'd been invisible for too long. Seraphina's triumph was unraveling, and for the first time, she felt the weight of an unseen rival, one who'd just stolen the night. The grand hall of the Metropolitan Museum of Art buzzed with the energy of the Thorne Innovations Gala, chandeliers casting a golden glow over the elite crowd. Eleanor Vance, in her emerald silk gown, moved through the room like a quiet storm, her presence commanding attention without a word. Heads turned, whispers followed, and the air crackled with curiosity. Seraphina Dubois, still clinging to Julian Thorne's arm, felt the shift like a cold wind. Her gold gown, once a beacon of triumph, now felt like a costume, outshone by Eleanor's effortless grace. Seraphina's smile was a brittle mask as she leaned toward Julian, her voice low and sharp. "What's going on, Julian? Why is everyone staring at her?" She jerked her head toward Eleanor, who was now speaking with a group of board members, their faces lit with respect. Julian's jaw tightened, his eyes darting between Eleanor and the crowd. "They're just impressed by her dress," he muttered, unconvincing. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me. They're talking about her like she's the queen of this company." She grabbed a champagne flute from a passing waiter, her fingers trembling slightly. As she sipped, her ears caught fragments of conversation from a nearby cluster of investors. "Eleanor Vance holds the majority shares, you know. She's the one who secured the initial funding. Quiet genius behind Thorne Innovations. Julian's the face, but she's the brain. Never seen her like this. That gown, that presence, she's unstoppable." Seraphina's grip on the flute tightened, the glass threatening to crack. She turned to Julian, her voice a hiss. "Majority shares? What are they talking about, Julian? You told me you built this company." Julian's face paled, and he tugged at his collar. "It's complicated, Sarah. Let's not do this here." But Seraphina wasn't listening. Her mind raced, piecing together the whispers. Eleanor wasn't just Julian's fiancée, she was the foundation of his empire. The penthouse, the private jets, the lavish gifts Seraphina had reveled in, they weren't Julian's to give. They were Eleanor's. The realization hit like a slap, and Seraphina's golden dream began to tarnish. Across the room, Eleanor felt the weight of eyes on her, but she stood taller, her emerald gown shimmering under the lights. Lena, at her side, whispered, "You're killing it, Ellie. They can't stop talking about you." Eleanor's lips curved into a small, determined smile. "Good. Let them talk." Seraphina excused herself from Julian's side, her heels clicking furiously as she slipped into a quiet alcove near the gala's bar. Her heart pounded, and her gold gown felt suffocating now, its weight dragging her down. She pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling as she opened a browser and searched Eleanor Vance Thorne Innovations. The results flooded in, articles, interviews, and financial reports she'd never bothered to read before. Each headline was a dagger. Eleanor Vance, the silent power behind Thorne Innovations, majority shareholder in tech giant revealed, the woman who built Julian Thorne's empire. Seraphina's breath hitched as she scrolled through an old Forbes article detailing Eleanor's role in securing the company's first major investment, her strategic brilliance in navigating early financial hurdles, and her decision to let Julian take the public credit. The penthouse, the art studio, the diamond bracelet Seraphina wore tonight, all of it was funded by Eleanor's wealth, her empire. She sank onto a velvet bench, her vision blurring with angry tears. "He lied to me," she whispered, her voice breaking. Julian had painted Eleanor as a passive, irrelevant figure, a woman who'd lucked into his orbit. But Seraphina was the one who'd been played, seduced by a fantasy built on another woman's legacy. Mia found her in the alcove, her face etched with concern. "Sarah, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Seraphina's laugh was bitter. "A ghost? Try a goddess. Eleanor Vance isn't just Julian's fiancée, she's the one who made him. Everything I thought I had, it's hers. The money, the power. I'm just the side piece living in her shadow." Mia's eyes widened. "Wait, you didn't know? I thought you were just okay with it." "Okay with it?" Seraphina snapped, her voice rising. "He told me she was nothing. A boring, safe choice he was done with. But she's the one who owns everything." She stood, pacing the alcove, her gold train sweeping the floor. "I've been a fool, Mia. A stupid, blind fool." Mia grabbed her arm, her voice urgent. "Sarah, calm down. You need to talk to Julian. Get the truth from him." Seraphina's eyes blazed. "Oh, I will. He's not getting away with this." Seraphina found Julian near the gala's main stage, where he was preparing to give his keynote speech. The crowd was thinning as guests moved toward the dining area, giving her the perfect moment to corner him. She grabbed his arm, pulling him into a shadowed corner behind a velvet curtain. "Tell me the truth, Julian," she demanded, her voice low but venomous. "Eleanor owns the company, doesn't she? The money, the penthouse, everything, it's hers, not yours." Julian's face crumpled, his polished facade cracking. "Sarah, it's not that simple." "Don't!" She cut him off, her eyes flashing. "Don't lie to me again. I read the articles. She's the majority shareholder. You've been using her money to buy me gifts, to keep me happy. You let me think you were the king, but you're just, what? Her puppet." Julian ran a hand through his hair, his voice strained. "It's not like that. Eleanor and I built Thorne Innovations together. She's brilliant, yes, but she chose to stay in the background. I'm the one who took the risks, who faced the press, who made the deals." Seraphina laughed, a harsh, hollow sound. "You took the credit, you mean? You let me believe she was nothing, Julian. You let me parade around like I was your future, when I was just, what? A distraction." Julian's eyes darted away, guilt etched into his features. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I care about you, Sarah. You're different. You make me feel alive." "Alive?" she spat. "You used me to feel something your fiancé couldn't give you. And now she's out there, stealing the show, and I'm the idiot in the gold dress who didn't see it coming." Julian reached for her, but she stepped back. "Sarah, please. I didn't want to hurt you. I got caught up." "Caught up," she echoed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're a coward, Julian. And I'm done being your pawn." She turned, her gold gown sweeping behind her, leaving him alone in the shadows as the weight of his deception settled over him. Eleanor stood on the museum's balcony, the city skyline sprawling before her like a glittering promise. The cool night air soothed the heat in her cheeks, a contrast to the fire in her heart. Inside, the gala continued, but she needed a moment to breathe, to process the triumph of her entrance and the whispers that followed. Lena had stayed inside, mingling with investors, but Eleanor knew she couldn't avoid Julian forever. As if summoned by her thoughts, Julian appeared at the balcony's edge, his tuxedo slightly askew, his expression a mix of desperation and remorse. "Eleanor," he said softly, his voice almost lost in the city's hum. "Can we talk?" Eleanor turned, her emerald gown catching the moonlight. Her face was calm, but her eyes held years of unspoken pain. "What's there to say, Julian? You made your choices clear tonight." Julian stepped closer, his hands outstretched. "I didn't mean for it to be like this. The invitation, the gala, it was a mistake. I should have included you. You're everything to this company." Eleanor's laugh was soft but cutting. "The company? That's what you think this is about?" "Julian, I've spent years building Thorne Innovations with you, pouring my heart into it while you took the spotlight. I let you because I loved you. But tonight, I realized something. I've been invisible to you too." Julian's face fell, his voice breaking. "That's not true, Ellie. I see you. I've always seen you." "Then why am I standing here, feeling like a stranger in my own life?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with hurt. "The late nights, the texts, the distance. I know there's someone else, Julian. I saw her tonight, on your arm, in that gold dress. Don't insult me by denying it." Julian's shoulders slumped, guilt rendering him speechless. Eleanor continued, her words measured but heavy. "I gave you everything, my trust, my love, my dreams. And you gave me lies. I need space, Julian. I need to figure out who I am without you." She turned back to the skyline, her emerald gown a beacon of her newfound strength. Julian stood frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but she didn't respond. The city's lights shimmered below, and Eleanor felt a quiet resolve settle over her. She was done being the silent partner. The gala's aftermath rippled through the tech world like a shockwave. By morning, headlines screamed, "Eleanor Vance steals spotlight at Thorne Gala, the hidden power behind Thorne Innovations revealed." Social media buzzed with photos of Eleanor's emerald entrance, her poised elegance overshadowing Julian's keynote. Investors and board members began whispering, questioning Julian's leadership. Why had he sidelined the woman who owned 51% of the company? What else was he hiding? In his office, Julian sat behind his glass desk, scrolling through the articles with a growing sense of dread. His phone buzzed with messages from board members demanding a meeting, their tone sharp and probing. "We need to discuss Ms. Vance's role," one read. "Her absence from the public narrative raises concerns," said another. Julian's carefully curated image was cracking, and he had no one to blame but himself. Meanwhile, Serafina sat in her Soho loft, staring at the diamond bracelet Julian had given her. It felt heavy now, tainted by the truth. She'd called Mia, her voice raw. "I thought I was the one, Mia. But I was just a prop. Everything I have, it's because of her." Mia's voice was gentle but firm. "So what now, Sarah? You can't change what happened, but you can decide what comes next." Serafina's eyes fell on a canvas in the corner, a half-finished painting she'd abandoned months ago. "I need to start over," she said, her voice gaining strength. "No more Julian, no more lies. Just me, my art, and the truth." Across town, Eleanor packed a small suitcase in her penthouse. Lena sat on the bed, watching her friend with pride. "Where to, Ellie?" she asked. Eleanor zipped the bag, her emerald gown hanging in the closet like a talisman. "Somewhere quiet. I need to find myself again, away from all this." Lena nodded, her eyes soft. "You're going to be okay, Ellie. Better than okay. You're going to shine." Eleanor smiled, a real one this time. "I know." Serafina Dubois stood in the middle of her Soho loft, the space that had once been her crowning glory now feeling like a hollow trophy. The diamond bracelet Julian had given her lay discarded on a table, its sparkle dimmed by the truth of its origins. The loft, with its sleek furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows, was a gift from Julian, or rather, from Eleanor Vance's empire. The realization still stung, but Serafina was done wallowing. She was ready to rewrite her story. She packed a single suitcase, leaving behind the designer dresses and lavish trinkets that had defined her life with Julian. Her canvas, half-finished and gathering dust in the corner, called to her. She dragged it to the center of the room, her fingers itching for a brush. The painting, a chaotic swirl of reds and blacks, had been abandoned when Julian's world consumed her. Now, it felt like a lifeline. Mia arrived, her sculptor's hands dusted with clay, and surveyed the sparse packing. "You're really doing it, huh?" she said, her voice a mix of admiration and concern. "Leaving all this behind?" Serafina nodded, dipping her brush into a pot of vibrant blue. "This place, these things, they're not mine. They never were. I let Julian make me someone I'm not." She streaked the canvas with color, her movements bold. "I'm an artist, Mia. Not a mistress. Not a trophy. I need to create something real." Mia sat on the floor, cross-legged, watching Serafina paint. "What's the plan, then?" "Back to the art world." "Back to myself," Serafina corrected, her eyes fierce. "I'm selling the loft. I'll rent a small studio, somewhere I can afford on my own. I'm done living off someone else's money, especially hers." She paused, her brush hovering. "Eleanor didn't deserve what I did. I didn't know the truth, but that doesn't excuse it." Mia's brow furrowed. "You're not responsible for Julian's lies, Sarah." "Maybe not," Serafina said, her voice softening, "but I was complicit. I believed what I wanted to believe. I need to make things right, starting with my art." She stepped back, the canvas now alive with bold strokes. "This is my redemption, Mia. One painting at a time." By week's end, Serafina had listed the loft for sale and moved into a modest studio in Brooklyn, its walls bare but brimming with possibility. She painted late into the night, her work raw and honest, a reflection of the woman she was becoming. The gala had shattered her illusions, but it had also set her free. Eleanor Vance stood on the balcony of a coastal villa in Maine, the ocean stretching before her like a canvas of endless blue. The air was crisp, scented with salt and pine, and the sound of waves crashing against the cliffs below soothed the ache in her heart. She'd left Manhattan a week ago, seeking solitude to rediscover the woman she'd lost in Julian's shadow. The emerald silk gown hung in her closet back home, a symbol of her strength, but here, in a simple linen dress, she felt lighter, unburdened. Her phone sat on the table, silenced but not forgotten. Messages from Julian piled up, apologies, pleas, promises to change, but Eleanor wasn't ready to respond. Not yet. She needed this time for herself, to untangle her identity from the company she'd built and the man she'd loved. Lena had called earlier, her voice crackling with excitement. "Ellie, the board's going nuts. They're demanding you take a more public role at Thorne Innovations. Your gala stunt worked. Everyone knows you're the real deal." Eleanor had smiled, the wind tugging at her auburn hair. "I'm not sure I want that role anymore, Lena. I built the company for us, for our dream. But it's cost me too much." Lena's tone softened. "What do you want, then?" Eleanor gazed at the horizon, her voice steady. "I want to be enough. Just me, not the shareholder or the fiancé. I need to figure out what that looks like." Now, as she walked along the rocky shore, her bare feet sinking into the cool sand, Eleanor felt a flicker of peace. She journaled in the evenings, her thoughts spilling onto the page. Memories of her early days with Julian, the passion they'd shared for their vision, and the slow erosion of their bond. She wrote about her anger, her hurt, but also her hope. The villa became her sanctuary, a place to heal and dream anew. One afternoon, she sat at a small cafe in the nearby town, sketching ideas for a new venture. Not tech, but something human, like a foundation to support women in business. A local artist joined her, intrigued by her quiet intensity. "You've got a spark," the woman said, her weathered hands cradling a coffee mug. "Whatever you're running from, it's made you stronger." Eleanor smiled, her hazel eyes bright. "I'm not running anymore. I'm finding my way." Julian Thorne sat in his Manhattan office, the city skyline a stark reminder of the empire he'd nearly lost. The gala's fallout had been brutal, investors questioning his judgment, board members demanding transparency, and the press dissecting his relationship with Eleanor. His phone was a battlefield of notifications, but none mattered as much as the silence from Eleanor herself. He'd sent her dozens of messages, each more desperate than the last. "I was wrong, Ellie. I took you for granted. Please, let's talk. But her silence was louder than any rebuke. Julian stared at a photo on his desk, him and Eleanor, years ago, laughing in their cramped apartment, a prototype circuit board between them. He'd been a fool to think he could replace her fire with Seraphina's fleeting spark. His assistant buzzed the intercom. "Mr. Thorne, the board's waiting. They want answers about Ms. Vance's role." Julian rubbed his temples, his voice hoarse. "Tell them I'll address it tomorrow. I need to fix something first." He booked a flight to Maine, tracking Eleanor's location through a mutual friend. The coastal villa was remote, a world away from Manhattan's chaos. When he arrived, the sight of her on the balcony, her auburn hair catching the sunlight, stole his breath. She looked serene, untouchable, a far cry from the woman he'd neglected. "Eleanor," he called, his voice trembling as he stepped onto the gravel path. She turned, her expression unreadable, and for a moment, he feared she'd walk away. "What are you doing here, Julian?" she asked, her tone calm but firm. He climbed the steps, his hands shaking. "I needed to see you. To say I'm sorry. I was an idiot, Ellie. I let the fame, the pressure get to me. I thought I needed someone else to feel alive. But it was always you. You're the heart of everything." Eleanor's eyes searched his, her voice steady. "You broke my trust, Julian. You made me feel invisible. I can't just forget that." "I know," he said, his voice cracking. "I'll do anything to make it right. Step down from the company, give you full control, anything. Just, don't give up on us." Eleanor's gaze softened, but her resolve held. "This isn't about the company, Julian. It's about me. I need time to find myself again. You need to face what you've done, not just to me, but to yourself." She turned back to the ocean, leaving Julian with the weight of his failures. He lingered, hoping for more, but her silence was answer enough. He left, the villa fading in his rearview mirror, knowing he'd lost more than he could ever regain. A month later, Eleanor returned to Manhattan, her heart lighter but her path still uncertain. She'd agreed to a meeting at Lena's insistence, not just with Julian but with Seraphina as well. The idea felt surreal, but Eleanor wanted closure, a chance to face the woman who'd been part of her pain. They met at a quiet rooftop cafe, the city's hum a distant backdrop. Eleanor arrived first, her simple white blouse and trousers a stark contrast to the emerald gown that had defined her gala moment. Julian arrived next, his eyes weary but hopeful. Seraphina was last, her vibrant energy subdued, her black dress understated but elegant. The air was thick with tension as they sat. Eleanor spoke first, her voice calm. "I didn't ask for this meeting to fight or blame. I want to understand, and I want to move forward." Seraphina's eyes met hers, raw with regret. "Eleanor, I didn't know the truth. Julian told me you were nothing. I believed him because I wanted to. I'm sorry for the part one played in hurting you." Eleanor nodded, her expression softening. "We were both lied to, Seraphina. I don't hate you. I pity the position he put you in." Seraphina's lips trembled, but she held Eleanor's gaze. "I'm leaving that life behind. The loft, the gifts, I'm done with it. I'm focusing on my art, on building something real." Eleanor smiled faintly. "Then you're already ahead of where I was a month ago." Julian shifted, his voice low. "Ellie, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm trying to change. I've stepped back from public roles at the company. The board wants you to lead, and I agree." Eleanor's eyes hardened. "This isn't about the company, Julian. It's about trust. I forgive you, because I need to let go, but I'm not coming back. Not to you, not like before." The words hung heavy, and Julian nodded, his eyes glistening. Seraphina reached out, her hand hesitating before touching Eleanor's. "Thank you," she whispered. "For this." Eleanor squeezed her hand briefly, then stood. "We all have our own paths now. Let's walk them." 6 months later, Eleanor stood in a small office in Brooklyn, the headquarters of her new foundation, Vance. It supported women entrepreneurs, offering mentorship and funding, her legacy built on her terms. The emerald gown hung in her apartment, a reminder of the night she reclaimed her power. She was single, free, and at peace, her hazel eyes bright with purpose. Julian remained at Thorne Innovations, but in a reduced role, his reputation tarnished but his resolve to rebuild genuine. He sent Eleanor occasional updates, respectful of her boundaries, and she read them with a distant fondness, no longer tethered to his orbit. Seraphina's art flourished, her new paintings raw and powerful, earning critical acclaim. She'd found her voice, independent of Julian's shadow, and her Brooklyn studio was a haven of creation. The Emerald legacy was Eleanor's, not as a symbol of wealth or status, but as a testament to her resilience. She stood at her office window, the city alive below, and smiled. Her future was unwritten, and for the first time, that felt like freedom. The end.